Hello ladies and gents, and welcome back to me, Dangerous Ali, and we are going to be finally starting my playthrough of the Tales of Monkey Island, or I think it is just called, Tales of Monkey Island, no the at the start. I am actually really looking forward to playing this game, because it has been, I have figured out today, 10 years since I've played this game. I played this game once when I played it back in 2012. We'll get into my personal history a little later on about when I played, but exactly 10 years ago I played this game, and I am looking forward to playing it again so I can kind of reevaluate it, because I will be honest straight off the bat here, this is my least favorite Monkey Island game in the series of Monkey Island. Now, I haven't played Return to Monkey Island yet, so that might change, but as I said, this currently in my head sits as my least favorite Monkey Island series. Now, there are things about this game that I do really like, and I will get into that as I'm playing the game and as I'm talking about the game. But as always here on Dangerously, when I'm starting a playthrough of a game, I kind of like to give a background on the history of the game itself, the context of the time around when the game released, and the lead up to its development basically. And I also like to talk about the art and my own personal history with the game. So I have a bit of the soundtrack playing in the background. You might be able to just about hear that. I don't want it too loud because you got to hear my beautiful voice. But of course, as usual, there will be a timestamp down below in the information part of this video if you want to just skip straight forward to the playthrough. There is a lot of stuff online about the development of this game. Conversely, Escape had almost no information because people don't really like the game, so it wasn't really documented. But this game is really well documented, and each episode of this game actually has a full developer commentary as well, which you can listen to online. Now, I haven't had the time to listen to that because, well, two reasons actually. One, because I don't really want to spoil the game for me, because there might be stuff that I've forgotten, and I know that this development commentary actually goes along with a full playthrough, so I kind of don't want anything to be given away while I listen to that, so that's why I haven't listened to that. There might be a lot of information that I'm missing out on because of that reason, but there is loads and loads of information about the development history of this game online. So this section, I believe, is going to be quite long. I'm going to try to keep it as snappy as I can, and I'm already outstaying my welcome here with the intro. But so yes, let's start off with what happened directly after the release of Escape from Monkey Island, because you've got to remember, Escape from Monkey Island released in 2000 and basically LucasArts for more or less all of the 2000s stopped making adventure games. So Escape from Monkey Island released, and it probably wasn't the biggest commercial hit for the company ever, and while it actually reviewed quite well, like 7 out of 10s, 8 out of 10s, that kind of thing, the general fan base has a huge distaste, unfortunately, for Escape from Monkey Island. I don't really know why. Is it a control thing? Is it just the monkey combat section? I understand that that's a bit kind of weird. The last chapter of the game, like Act 3, isn't great, so I can kind of see where people get rubbed the wrong way with the game. But anyway, a few things happened within the LucasArts company, which was informed very much by what was happening in the video game industry at the time. So they basically had a new president from 2000 to 2003 called Simon Jeffrey. Now, I've never heard of this man before until I was researching this episode, but basically he kind of ushered in the millennium era of LucasArts for that 2000 to 2003, and there was more presidents that replaced him after that, but basically he kind of very much pushed out the point and click thing, and because of what was happening in the industry, there was huge success with the first-person shooter genre, which really was kind of like the death toll for graphic adventures at the time. You know, they were just selling way more. You know, Doom and Quake, and particularly like Half-Life came out in '98. And basically it just kind of changed the gaming industry landscape, and it made those games kind of the forefront of what was happening. So basically, internal interest in making point-and-click games began to wane, and there was a larger emphasis on LucasArts beginning to output higher numbers of action-based titles, and basically the floodgates were opened to them making a plethora of Star Wars titles around 2000 onwards. So there was also more emphasis with this guy. Simon Jeffrey kind of pushed more for commercial success rather than the kind of previous history of the company, which was more into like exploring and experimenting with game genres and styles and story, that was very much encouraged. And to try to stay small, like I think that's what George Lucas always used to say to the team, you know, stay small and don't go over budget. So it was like work within a box, and we'll give you the time to do whatever you want, but you know, just don't go over budget and stay small, stay kind of more independent, which I think was cool. But obviously the 2000s and everything that was going on in the video game industry kind of changed that, unfortunately. So what also happened then in 2002, this is probably the closest thing for a long time that we got to anything related to Monkey Island or graphic adventures. In 2002, LucasArts released a compilation CD, which I actually have a copy of here, of music from the past games. It's called The Best of LucasArts Original Soundtracks. And as far as I can tell, this is the only soundtrack of LucasArts game original music that was ever released. Which I think is really weird. And there's actually a piece on it here, 20th, I don't know if you can see that. It mightn't focus, but the first track there, 20th Anniversary Fanfare. So it was like released for the 20th anniversary of, I suppose, LucasArts, like changing over from Lucasfilm to LucasArts. And like it has, you know, music from Grim Fandango, Monkey Island, Outlaws, The Dig, all their kind of original titles that they had released throughout the 90s. And that 20th Anniversary Fanfare was actually like made specifically for this CD. It's kind of like, I think it was made by Michael Land as well, if I'm correct in thinking that. Track 1, I don't know, it doesn't say. But I do believe that that is a Michael Land piece of music. Kind of interesting, it was the only soundtrack that they ever released. But that's the closest we got in the 2000s to something related to graphic adventures. So also in 2002, LucasArts realized, funnily enough, and this kind of made no difference to the company, but they actually realized that they were over-relying on releasing Star Wars games, which was reducing the quality of the output of their games. They announced that future releases would be like 50% non-Star Wars related, but many of the original titles that they were working on were either completely unsuccessful in the market or they were actually cancelled before released, which leads nicely on to the next point. There was actually some interest internally in still making adventure games. Like some of the team members that were there from the older days were still there in about 2000, 2003, up to about that point, 2004. And the problem was really is that LucasArts were unlikely to greenlight a game at the time unless it was a sequel of a previous property. So basically there was actually a Full Throttle 2 in development and a Sam & Max sequel called Sam & Max Freelance Police. Now there's going to be some images there on screen that you can see. I actually think the Full Throttle game looks really good. It does look more action orientated, but it does still look like it has that LucasArts kind of comedy flavor and kind of interesting thing. I think that game would have been so interesting. And the Sam & Max title as well, there's actually not that much online about it. I don't know if any stuff has really leaked from it, but that Sam & Max looks kind of more like a conventional point and click game. I actually think the Full Throttle game, which you can see some of the images, is like, there's enough there in that to kind of like have a whole video just dedicated to talking about it. So I'm not really going to go into the details about that too much, but I think it looks really interesting. And basically what happened was that in March of 2004, LucasArts came out and they said that they recognized, and I'm reading this, I quote, they recognized that there were current marketplace realities and underlying economic considerations that made adventure games too risky to fund and release. Thus, they actually cancelled all the work that had been done on these two titles. So these games were never released. There is a lot of stuff online about it. It's worth checking out if you're interested. But yeah, I really do like the look of that Full Throttle game. And unfortunately now the voice of Ben from Full Throttle, I cannot think of his name. Something Conrad. My brain is fried, but he's unfortunately passed away, so it's likely that a Full Throttle sequel featuring Ben will probably never happen, which is kind of sad. But anyway, after the cancellation of those two games, if you actually look at the rest of the 2000s, so if you look at like 2000 to 2009 with LucasArts, the list of games that they've released, and you can check it out on Wikipedia, right? It's actually scary because it's all Star Wars games. Every game nearly. Like I would say there's about 4 or 5 titles throughout that time of 2000 to 2009 where it's just Star Wars. Welcome to Star Wars land. Like, it's actually crazy. They kind of largely became a Star Wars company for all of the 2000s. And like, look at all these titles. Now I know there's 1 or 2 that are repeated there, but like, look, there's a lot of great games there, you know. They're like the Jedi Outcast, the Star Wars Jedi Knight games, Jedi Knight Academy. They're amazing. Like, they're incredible games. They're some of my favorite games, actually. But like, you know, Bounty Hunters, there was obviously, they were following up all the Star Wars movies that were coming out at the time. Battlefront 2 were incredible, and obviously BioWare's Knights of the Old Republic series is excellent as well, and they kind of dipped their toe in massive multiplayer, which is gone now to the dismay of many Star Wars galaxies. And that Lego game, I really liked that Lego game, came out in 2005. I actually played it. But yeah, as you can see, it's quite crazy, isn't it? And there's way more than that. That's just some of the games. I didn't have time to get all the box arts. I just picked out what I could find online as quick as possible, really. But because of all of that, the writing was kind of on the wall, and following the cancellation of those 2 Full Throttle and Sam & Max games, there were 3 employees who kind of saw the writings on the wall and felt that the change in direction within the company was actually not favorable anymore. And so Kevin Bruner, Dan Connors and Troy Melander actually left the company with the idea in mind to kind of take the old kind of feeling of Lucasfilm and LucasArts, stay small, focus on story and art, and made their own company basically called Telltale Games. And they made that in 2004. They founded it in July of 2004. So as I said, they kind of wanted to make an emphasis on storytelling and adventure games. So they also then decided to completely forego the conventional way of releasing a game by getting a physical copy and bringing it into stores and publishing it. They actually went with the idea of going completely digital, and I haven't heard of a lot of companies from this time period. I think they are like one of the kind of forefront companies on this digital storefront thing, along with the likes of Steam. But basically they had their own website, which was their digital storefront, and you could buy the games directly from them from their site. So they would sell their games directly the idea was to a smaller fan base, and they actually I also think they were at the forefront of episodic gaming. So they were using that for their own games, releasing bits of the game over time, over a few months, if they were releasing in a year, which also gave them time to develop the next parts of the game and take feedback from the fan bases and, improve the games and stuff like that. It's kind of an interesting time period for games. But so these three guys came along, they made Telltale Games, which obviously is a very well-known company. There's a whole load of information about their history. I'm going to touch on some of it, but there's lots up online to hear about, and obviously they went into demise then way later, but I'm not even going to touch on that in this video. So often then as well, when they had the whole game released, so they did a Sam & Max game, for example, when that whole game was released, then they'd compile it onto a DVD, and they'd actually physically release the DVD of all the episodes with extras like making of material and stuff like that, and concept art, and they'd put it onto a DVD, and you could actually buy it off their store online on the website, and then you'd receive the game, a physical edition game, which is cool. So these guys basically, they created their own in-house engine called the Telltale tool, which they actually used throughout the entire history of their company. Probably wasn't an excellent idea really, because it really started to show its age at the end of the game, or at the end of what they were doing. And now I actually don't have a screenshot of this particular game, so I'm going to get one just so you can see, because this is where they started. With their first game release, which I think is funny that this was their first game release. So just 2 seconds there, and I'm going to save that image to here. Save. Awesome. So yeah, this was their first game. It was Telltale Texas Hold'em, and basically they released this game first as a means of testing the engine, this Telltale tool, and they also wanted to test the digital distribution method that they were going to go on using, right? So then around the same time, shortly after, and I think this is the first, well, here's the two, there's a picture of the two. Again, I was so prepared for this episode, and then I just realized I wasn't actually as prepared as I thought I would be. That's always the way, is it not? Right, so then they did, based on the comic series, I'm just looking for my notes here that I have up. I had to take a lot of notes for this episode, so if I'm referring to the notes, I apologize. So yeah, they basically then made also a series of games based on Jeff Smith's Bone comic. I've never heard of the Bone comic. I think it's more well known over in America. But they did this to not only test, I'm actually covering myself. They did this not to only test the digital distribution model, but they also wanted to test the episodic model of distribution online. They actually had planned 5 episodes of that Bone game, but they actually only did 2. They only released 2, which I think is it's kind of funny, I suppose, that they had planned out 5 but they only got around to 2. But I think it's because they were just testing the waters, and I'm not sure whether the Bone game sold really well or not. I haven't played either of them, so I'm actually not sure. But there you go, they were their first 2 games in 2005 and 2006 respectively. But so, as I was saying, I'm only speculating that they only did the 2 as well, based on sales, so I might be wrong on that. But they did decide to move on to greener pastures with their IPs. Throughout the history of the company, they largely created titles from existing IPs, which they licensed. They started off using smaller IPs like Bone, with dedicated fan bases like Sam & Max, Wallace and Gromit. And then they even did a kind of curious, and I've never played them, a selection of games based on CSI, the TV show, which is weird but cool, I suppose. I think my friend might have played these games, but I don't know if they're the same games that were released on like consoles as well, or were they different. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't really look into those games, and I've never played them. By all accounts, they're supposed to be quite good, but as I said, I just have not played them. Due to the success then in 2010 with a Back to the Future game that they made, they gained like really lucrative licensing deals after that, with huge commercial IPs like The Walking Dead, as we know, Game of Thrones, Batman, Jurassic Park, etc, etc, etc. Eventually the company then, as I said, shut down in 2018, and that subject is not for this video at all. But basically, they are the three guys that created Telltale games, which led to the Monkey Island game we're going to be playing today, which is quite nice. So, I'm going to get that off screen. So basically around 2005-06, LucasArts changed up their logo. They kind of went more into a modern style. And Telltale had kind of come along and said, we have an interest in making LucasArts titles, like we want to make a Sam and Max game. And funnily enough, actually, David Grossman came back into this company, Telltale Games at the time, and he kind of was spearheading a lot of this. But basically, the licensing agreement ran out for the Sam and Max IP between LucasArts in 2005, actually, funnily enough, when Telltale started releasing games. And basically, Steve Purcell came along straight away and he offered the license to Telltale almost immediately, which I think is quite cool, actually. Like, there's Telltale Games. I'm actually going to bring up that logo and leave it on screen for the moment. So yeah, there kind of was a bit of a licensing agreement between these two parties. Well, sorry, not LucasArts, between Steve Purcell and Telltale Games to make a Sam and Max game, basically. And they did that, and there was actually, it actually went quite well for them. It was quite successful. So how does Monkey Island really fit into this? So basically, Telltale Games came along and they decided, you know, we're going to make a Sam and Max game. It went quite well, and David Grossman has said that a kind of a confluence of events happened, that LucasArts were looking to license more, and then this man stepped into the shoes of LucasArts president for a while. He's a rather dashing looking gentleman, Darryl Rodriguez, in 2008. And aside from maximizing profits for the company at the time, he actually presented an opportunity for a Monkey Island kind of revival of sorts to take place. He ushered in quite a few teams and outside teams from LucasArts to make 2 remake/remaster games of the first 2 Monkey Island games, which I'm not really going to talk much about in this episode, but they are quite good for the large part, and they're, you know, looked upon quite well by the fan base, except for Guybrush's hair in the Secret of Monkey Island remaster. But anyway, they also included kind of cool graphics switch mode where you could switch from the new graphics back to the old graphics. And I actually also think, again, that was kind of at the forefront of that thing, the switching graphics. Like, I don't remember any game before that where you could switch to old and new graphics on the fly. So I think that was one of the first games that did that. Again, I'm only speculating. I might be wrong. If you know of another game that did it, let me know. So this man, Darryl, also helped broker a deal between Telltale Games and LucasArts where they would license the Monkey Island series to make a brand new adventure game in the Sam and Max style that they had made with episodic releases. So David Grossman and the team had also expressed interest in making a Monkey Island game, so that's how when the opportunity arose, they basically jumped at it. It's actually really hard to imagine now, but like within a 2-year span, we got 3 kind of new Monkey Island releases. I know 2 of them were remakes, but like, what a great time to be alive as a Monkey Island fan. And like, I do remember around that time just being like, wow, there's so much Monkey Island, it's great. I was delighted with myself. And I think it was the right time as well. You know, enough time had passed since I'd played the original games at least in my mind, because I was a child when I was playing them, so time kind of took longer. It felt longer anyway between the time that we saw those games, but like a kind of nearly 10-year period had passed, more or less, and these games started coming out, and it was just like a rush of nostalgia, you know. It's funny as well, like it took 2000 to 2009 for another Monkey Island game to come out. That's 9 years, you know, a long time, right? But then we've also had nothing for almost 12 years, where like Return has now arrived and there's a new Monkey Island in the game. I don't think it's going to usher in any kind of new exciting Monkey Island things for us, but it's certainly wonderful that I have a new Monkey Island game still to play. So anyway, that's kind of all of the context that I'm going to give you here. There's Daryl. We'll leave Daryl off. And I'm just going to move on to talking about the game now. Tales of Monkey Island itself and its release and development team and stuff like that. So again, look, I've this big list of notes here in front of me, so I'm referring to that. And I apologize if I go off script or kind of get caught up because my brain is all over the place. But anyway, so Tales of Monkey Island was developed by Telltale Games under license from LucasArts, and it released initially on Windows PC on the 7th of July 2009 in an episodic format throughout 2009 on the Windows platform. Now, it actually was released on several other platforms as well. It was released, I'll give you the full list. It was released on Windows, as I just said. It was released on Mac OS X, the new kind of style Mac, not the old kind of OS 9. It's the OS 10, the OS X platform, which changed, and Intel based computers started to become the norm for Mac around that time. And interestingly enough, I didn't know this, but it was one of the first native games available to play on the new Mac OS Steam client, which I think is quite cool. It was released on PS3 then later in 2010, and it was also released on iOS. So there was a German boxed copy, big box. It was the only place in the world that got a big box version. I love that big box. It looks so great. And of course, that box art of on the German release and the one over there to the left is actually a Steve Purcell drawing as well, which I think is really cool. I think the box art we got over here and everywhere else, like the one there up in the middle of the screen, it's okay. It could be better, I think. But that big box is really cool and very, very expensive now to get your hands on. There was actually another collector's edition that was released with a couple of extras. There's a little kind of canvas map, a pin, a coin. There was a drinks coaster, which is cardboard, so like you can't use it. And one of the tarot cards alongside another DVD with the limited edition slipcover on the top. And then it actually had the normal DVD case inside. There was also some extras that they released as well at the time on their website alongside the game. There was a really cool mug, Tales of Monkey Island mug. It's not as cool as my mug. It stars Raccoon City Police Department, and they also released a selection of tarot cards. There might have been one or two other things as well released, but I couldn't find them or couldn't see them. But as well, there was actually one more platform that the game was released on, and I actually didn't know this. And if anybody has played this version, please comment below and let me know what it was like, because I think this is really interesting. Because this, I actually think, informed how the game was made. So, it was actually released, would you believe, on the Nintendo Wii. It was released via an online platform at the time. Now, I have no history really using the Wii during the time, during that generation, because I didn't get one until way later. And basically there was a platform called WiiWare, and WiiWare is basically the Steam of Nintendo, or the PSN store of Nintendo. Basically they released digital only games that could be purchased and downloaded from the Wii Shop channel, which was under the WiiWare section. They were like specialized applications mostly that were developed specifically for the Wii console, but there were some outside developers like Telltale Games that wanted their games on WiiWare as well. Now, as I said, I think this actually affected the design of the game in many ways. So one of them is the music had to be created completely using MIDI to reduce file size, because there was a 40 megabyte size limit for the games that were released on WiiWare. 40 megabytes. Like, that is so little, especially during the time. And basically, it annoyed actually a lot of developers at the time. Many developers actually criticized Nintendo for limiting it to 40 megabytes. Some games were actually even cancelled when people refused to compromise their games for the platform. There was a really seemingly tedious and lengthy process to get approved as well, because you had to be approved by Nintendo to get on the WiiWare digital platform. But Telltale really wanted to be on Wii for whatever reason, and thus every episode of the game, the 5 episodes, each episode is only 40 megabytes. So I really think that this actually affected the game. It made the locations smaller and more linear, and that is one of my biggest problems with this game, is that especially the early episodes, you feel like you're being funneled down a corridor. And in the older Monkey Island games, they were more open. Like they were bigger locations. You could go back and forth. You could explore much more, or felt like you could anyway. Funnily enough, people criticized it, as I said, but they also made jokes about it. And Telltale in game, and I didn't know this was a reference, but in game the club called Club 41 is a reference to this 40 megabyte limit and the mythical 1 megabyte, the secret extra megabyte that they had no access to using. I think it's a good joke, the Club 41. I didn't know it. And I think in the game, if I remember correctly, there's like a character, it's for members only. You can't get into Club 41 until a later episode. And I actually think that this might have been a reference to the tedious, lengthy Nintendo only, like you had to be a Nintendo developer or whatever to get approved for the WiiWare platform. Interesting one, but I had no idea it was released on Wii, and I really think that actually informed the development of the game a lot more than we think. I do actually think that while the Wii version might have been compromised in some ways and heavily compressed, I do believe the PC version is actually like uncompressed textures and sound. So the sound might sound worse on the Wii version, for example, or the textures might look a bit more pixelated or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I've never seen it run. What's kind of sad about this is at this port and many of the games that were on WiiWare is they're kind of lost to time now, unless people have hacked them onto online that you can play them. Many of the games weren't re-released on later Wii platforms, and as I said, WiiWare is now no longer a thing. It's shut down. I really would be interested to hear if anybody played this version of the game originally. So please do comment below if you did, because I think it's just weird to me that it was on Wii, but here we are. So with all of that in mind, who made this game? There are so many people involved in the making of this game in so many different ways. I'm not going to get to all of them. It was a roughly 50-person team over the course of the entire development. And I'm going to start off with somebody old came back and joined Telltale Games. I mentioned him earlier, but David Grossman is basically the kind of overseer of this whole project. He's the guy who kind of ushered it into being. His title is Director of Design, and that's for every episode, because every episode is credited slightly differently, and a couple of people came in and left and so on and so forth. But David Grossman came along. He kind of spearheaded this game, as far as I can tell anyway. And there's lots of great interviews with him online talking about the development of the game, his thought process on what he was doing, and the team he put around him. For a lot of people, I think this and the next person I'm going to speak about gives this game a lot more legitimacy, because this game was really well received within the fan community. A lot of people, I suppose, were so unhappy with Escape that they were like delighted to play a game that felt more Monkey Island. But I think like Dave Grossman being one of the original kind of 3 people that were kind of the heads of the original Secret of Monkey Island 2, I think having him on board gave this game a bit more legitimacy to people's eyes or whatever. So basically, when David Grossman was involved, he decided, well, who's the first person I'm going to call? And surprisingly, the first person he called was Ron Gilbert. So Ron Gilbert does actually have a credit in this game. It's quite a funny credit. Obviously, it's made as a joke. His credit is Visiting Professor of Monkeyology. But basically what it boils down to is he came in for a week at the very start of the process to spitball story ideas and development ideas. I've heard some interviews with Ron where he kind of talks about it, and he often really underplays what role he had in the game. He has said that around that time it was really nice for him to see his games kind of have a bit of a revival between the remakes and this Tales Monkey Island, and he very much wished the Tales team well with what they were doing, and you know, he gave them his blessing very much to kind of take it in whatever direction they wanted. What I wonder is, because you see, the reason he wasn't involved with it full time, I don't know if he was asked to like come on board and make the game with them, but he was making a game called Deathspank at the time with a different company, and I think that is the reason that he wasn't able to kind of give more time than a week, or I think it was maybe it was 8 days or something like that. That's what I read anyway. But yeah, I suppose again, in many people's eyes, it just gives it legitimacy, because a lot of people say the non-Ron games are just not canon. People don't believe in them, so I think this game gets a bit more legitimacy. Again, that's a hard word to say, because Ron was involved. I don't know. I don't think it makes the early episodes better. As I said, there are really good things about this game. Particularly, there's one character who I'll talk about, who I think is like the best aspect of the game. And also there was that last chapter. It's the last chapter of the game feels like a proper Monkey Island experience to me, and I really do love that last chapter. But we'll get onto that. Right. So interestingly, and I didn't really realize this until kind of recently, but Mike Stemmel, who I've been calling him Stemmel, and he himself does not pronounce his name. Here he is, Mike Stemmel. So he pronounces his name Mike Stemley. So Mike Stemley, I'll try to remember to say that, but it's not spelt Stemley, but the man himself calls himself Mike Stemley. So it's Mike Stemley. He actually returned from Escape, and Escape like is the game that's not liked. People hate the game, and I suppose by proxy they hate him, because he was one of the directors along with Sean Clark in the last game. But so he returned, and again, I think like David Grossman, he's kind of an overseer of this project. He's director, season design, episode design, writer, all these different things, all these different roles, right? So Mike Stemley came back to, I suppose, maybe try to do a better job or something, in people's eyes, to kind of rekindle, or to make people think, oh, he can actually do a Monkey Island game. And for the large part, Tales was successful with people, so I think he he's kind of regained the trust amongst the fans of Monkey Island, or I'm speculating that, but anyway. So Mike Stemley came along, and then we had some other designer / writer directors. There's so many people. What's interesting about this game, and David Grossman goes into it, is each episode they wanted to have kind of like a different director and different writer. So each episode has a different person in kind of charge. So here's some of those people. We have Mark Darren. Never heard of him before this, but he was director, writer again, design basically. We have a Cork man, would you believe? I'm from Cork, Ireland, and this man originally is from Cork, Ireland. Sean Vanaman. and he moved over to, I think, LA or something, or somewhere over in America when he was very young. But yeah, a Cork man originally, was a writer, designer again, director, all this different. I think this is very much a collaborative game. So we have Jake Rodkin again on design, and basically these kind of men were the writer-designers of the entire experience, which I think is really interesting. Mike Stemley, I think, kind of oversaw it, and then David Grossman overseeing it. It just seems very designed by committee, which in my eyes isn't a great thing. I think when there's too many fingers in the pot, it can turn out not well, because, you know, there'll be a tonal difference. That'll be interesting to see if I pick up on some kind of tonal difference within the episodes. So we had a guy called Randy Tudor, on programming, lead programming. That's the only picture I could find of the guy. I think I found a picture of him maybe as an Easter egg in a Walking Dead game later on. But he was on lead programming. There's the side of his head. It's great. He looks like Crosby, David Crosby from Crosby, Stills and Nash. We have on sound mixing and sound design, Jared Emerson Johnson. Interestingly as well, he actually has a voice role in the game. I'll get into that later. And of course, returning again doing music was Michael Land. And Jared Emerson Johnson, the man with the beard and the glasses there, he actually said that while he himself actually has a background in music, he kind of just left Michael to do his thing, because Michael knew what he was doing with the Monkey Island series in terms of its music. And I actually think that that's a good thing. I can't really remember much from this soundtrack that stuck out to me. Not in the same way that the previous games did, but it'll be interesting to revisit it now and see if I do find anything about it. Unfortunately, our friends Clint Bajakian and Peter McConnell did not return. I actually think Peter McConnell at that stage would have moved on to working on things like Psychonauts and other games within the Double Fine team that happened as well. So that's basically kind of a rough overview of the design team. I unfortunately won't be able to mention everybody in the credits, because I think that there's just far too many people. But I do always like to give the artists their dues. So I'm going to move on here to the artists. Here's some concept art as well, a little slideshow concept art, because I think that's important to have up on screen so you can see it. I actually think, on reflection and seeing some of these images recently, I actually think they were going for quite a kind of Pixar style design, a kind of Disney Pixar. There's some concept art of maybe box arts, and obviously the one that it ended up. But so we had a guy called, and this is the only picture I can find of him, Ryan Jones on concept art. So he was very much in the conceptual phase. Stuff like that would have been Ryan Jones. We have a guy called Derek Sakai on art direction. Kim Lines returns again as an environment artist. And we have David Bogan as a lead animator. And then as a character artist, we have Jason Finley. I've seen that guy's face, Jason Finley, before. I don't know where, but however, these are the artists. Yeah, so very it's decidedly Pixar to me. And some of those backgrounds and even the character models there are really high res. Like that now is very high res 2D. So I actually wonder, and I am speculating again, I wonder, did they initially plan on going for a high res 2D art version of the game? Because they very much look like they were going for that to me. Like their hand-drawn high-res 2D animation. But I think they did Sam & Max in 3D on the Telltale engine, and I'd say they just wanted the pipeline to be as easy as possible. I don't think that they had a huge budget for this game. It is kind of a budget title in a way. It's not a AAA release. It didn't make a physical release until way later, and it was for a large part, and I will talk more about how this actually affected me and getting to play the game. For a large part, it was completely online at the time, and 2009, yes, it's a modern-ish year, but the internet was still not as prevalent as it is today in the world. So here we are with the voice acting now. This is kind of interesting. Huge team of voice actors. So I'm going to start with his picture because I think this has been interesting. But so I've seen there's an interview with Dominic Armato promoting the game in 2009. I think he's at E3 or something, some event like that. And he says, even though he's not credited, Dominic Armato says that Dara O'Farrell, who previously voice directed 2 previous Monkey Island games, he was the guy who rang Dominic up originally to ask him to do the voice again. But he's not credited as voice director on Tales of Monkey Island. So I kind of wonder, in what capacity was Daryl involved, or was he at all? Was he literally just the guy that called Dominic? But of course Dominic loves making Monkey Island games, and he jumped at the opportunity, he said. So we have a lady called Meg Crowell doing the voice direction as far as I can see. Although it says... I actually don't have it written down. She's not down as voice director. She's down as something else. But so the previous Charity James was actually replaced again by Alexandra Boyd from Curse of Monkey Island, returned to voice Elaine again, which I think is good. And she actually has stayed on. She did the voice for the special editions, and she's now doing the voice for Elaine again in return. I liked Charity James's thing. The American kind of Elaine is okay, but realistically, Alexandra Boyd gives a kind of touch of class. The British accent kind of gives that colonial time thing to the character of Elaine. I think she's better as a British lady, personally. So Alexandra Boyd returned. Leilani Jones was actually replaced as the voodoo lady by a white woman called Alison Ewing. I think that's how you pronounce her name, Ewing. I don't remember how she sounds in this game, but I thought Leilani Jones stayed on. I think Leilani Jones comes back again for the special editions, and I'm actually not sure. I think she might voice her in return as well. Of course, Denny Delk returns as Murray, fan favorite Murray. I'm not going to go into the names of all these people, just because I don't know them, all the names. But so a new person to the series, completely new. Obviously, Alison Ewing was as well, but a new character was voiced by a woman called Nikki Rapp. The character is Morgan Le Fay, and I actually think Morgan Le Fay is possibly the best thing about Tales. She's the most interesting thing that they brought back into the mix. So then we've got a guy called Roger L. Jackson. I'm not going to say what character names these people are, unless I believe it's important to say so. We've got Chuck Kourakulis, hard name to pronounce. We've got Brian Sommer. We've got Jared Emerson Johnson. So the guy doing sound mixing, sound mastering, and some sound editing and design was also a voice of I don't remember his name, the French villain in like the earlier episodes. So it's interesting, that guy's kind of like a jack of all trades kind of thing. And then we've got a guy called Gavin Hammond also in the voice cast. So that's kind of like your main voice cast. There are a couple other voices I'm leaving out, but that's your main cast. Quite a big cast. Now you're probably asking yourself, but what about LeChuck? And you would be right in asking that, because there's actually, again, a lot of interesting development stuff going on in this game. So LeChuck does return, and he kind of has a dual role in this game. He's like the evil zombie pirate LeChuck, and he's also spoiler alert if anybody hasn't played this game, he also kind of has a good human version of him in the game. Now, what's interesting about that to me is they kind of split up those characters into a few different voice actors, would you believe? So initially Earl Bowen, series mainstay for LeChuck, was asked to reprise his role, but he actually had retired from acting in the mid-2000s and kind of either just didn't want to do it or just said, no, I'm fine, thanks very much, and I give you my blessing to do other people. So actually in the first episode we had a guy called Adam Harrington on voice duties. Now, I actually have a video here that we can watch. I'm going to just turn off that music. So for the very first episode of the game, this guy Adam Harrington, the guy with the long hair there, voiced LeChuck, the evil demon LeChuck. So here it is. Let's have a listen to the voice.
Behold, the legendary 13th monkey of Montevideo, whose sacrifice will eternally bind the oceans themselves to my infernal will.
So, like, I have to be honest about his voice acting there. It sounds like a fan attempting to do a LeChuck. It sounds like my bad version of LeChuck. Like, I'm not a voice actor. Like, this guy is written down as a voice actor, and I don't mean to be mean to Adam, because look, thanks for stepping into the role and doing it, but I don't think it's great. I don't think it's a great take. He's obviously trying to do the Earl Bowen thing. I think he would have been better off doing something completely different with the voice, honestly. And I'm not sure who voices him for Return. But I haven't heard LeChuck in the new game yet, because they did release a kind of a, not a trailer, but a little teaser of what he sounds like in the new game, Return to Monkey Island, and I didn't listen to it because I kind of want it to be a surprise. I hope he's better than that. But so for the first episode, Adam Harrington there took on the evil LeChuck. But then obviously, spoiler alert, something happens, and then he becomes a good human version of LeChuck. And I didn't know this, but he's actually voiced by a completely different person called Kevin Blackton, who unfortunately has passed away. He is not with us any longer, Kevin Blackton. But so for the majority of the episodes, from episode 2 to 4, this guy, Kevin Blackton, is voicing LeChuck as the good human version. But so what happened then, afterwards, was he later was actually replaced again by Earl Bowen, when Earl Bowen agreed to actually return to do the voice of the demon LeChuck at the end of episode 4, and he stayed on for the 5th episode. And they actually got Earl Bowen to re-record all the lines for LeChuck's demon incarnation in first episode, which were then updated onto the full DVD release of the game and subsequent releases of the game as well, such as the PS3 version, which is the version I played, and I will get into that later. One more point as well about Alexandra Boyd playing Elaine. She was unable at the time to travel to California, so all of her lines were actually recorded in London while communicating with voice director Meg Crowell via Skype. So I think that's kind of interesting. Just an interesting little fact. So that's the voice acting, really. So I suppose more than anything else, I'm going to move on here finally. We're nearly at an hour. I knew this was going to take long, but I didn't think it was going to take an hour. I don't know how much of the game I'm going to play in this episode. Apologies for that, but I just like to give people this context because I think it's important to kind of know a bit about the game before going in. And it's nice to know this information. And then I think my own personal history as well is kind of, it's nice to share with people how I play this game. So I kind of did a bit of investigating today before I made this video about how I played this game, and it's actually quite, I think it's quite interesting. So originally, when it was announced in 2009, I must have been, inside town, inside a magazine shop, and I came across a magazine called Total PC Gaming, and that is where I first heard of Tales of Monkey Island, because as you can see there, this DVD that came with Total Gaming, a PC gaming magazine, had a Tales of Monkey Island demo, and I was like, what? A new Monkey Island game? I must buy this magazine and play it immediately. And as you can see there, yeah, it was one of the demos of the PC gaming mag, which I think is really cool. And I actually found my copy of it here, which I think is cool. I was looking for it earlier, and there's, if that goes into focus, there's the Tales demo. And unfortunately, my PC was crap in 2009. So this game this demo ran really badly on my PC. So unfortunately, I actually didn't get to play the game until way later. So that it came out in 2009. I played a small bit of that demo. I thought it was cool. My sister and me were really excited to see what it was like, but it was unlikely that we were going to be able to play it. It also didn't come out in shops physically. You couldn't buy a copy of this in the shops, or at least I never saw it in a shop to buy. So it made it very hard for me to play the game. Like it made it something that I wasn't able to go into a shop and see it, to pick it up and go, oh, I'll buy that now, and then when I finally get a PC later, I'll be able to play it, a good PC or whatever. And also because it was a digital kind of only release for a long time, we actually didn't get broadband here in my house until I think 2010, or at least late 2009. And I didn't have a PC that was even capable of really connecting properly to the internet until 2012. So I was kind of out of luck, really. My sister and me were sad that we couldn't play it. But as I said, and we were excited, we really did want to play it, and we tried the demo, but the demo just ran so bad. It was like really bad frame rate, and we didn't really know that you could change resolutions to make things run better, and we weren't that savvy at that stage with our stuff. We were just like, oh, but the game doesn't play because, you know, it's looking for a newer system. But as luck would have it, I did own a PS3, and Tales did make it to the PlayStation 3. Now, I found that box art online. I think somebody custom made that. The game was not released physically, as far as I can tell, on the PlayStation 3. It was digital download only. And it was released in 2010. Now, a friend of mine and myself, who I'll mention shortly, briefly, I'll mention him, and we were talking earlier, and we thought that there was a gap because of the 2011 PlayStation Store hack that happened. We actually thought there was a gap between episode 4 and 5, but it turns out it was actually the Back to the Future game had a gap of its release schedule on the PlayStation Store from in 2011, from 4 to 5, episode 4 to 5, and we were waiting for ages. We thought it was Tales, but it's actually not. Tales was released all at the same time on PlayStation 3, and you could play it immediately, but again, it just went under my radar on PlayStation 3. It came out in 2010 now, mind you, right? So in 2009 on PC, 2010 on PS3, and I didn't actually play the game, and I only found out today when I turned on my PlayStation 3 until 2012. You can see it there on screen. That's the first trophy I think you get in the game, and I got it in chapter 1 of the series in 2012. So I didn't play it for ages, but my friend, my best friend, Mr. Patrick Hendrick, there he is on screen, looking very handsome, very dashing altogether, with his Bruce Springsteen t-shirt. He's a massive fan of Bruce Springsteen. So we have grown up together. We went to school together, just to give you a bit of history about us. And we used to play in a band together when we were younger. And unfortunately, that band kind of ended. And we kicked him out of the band at one stage. And unfortunately, Patrick and myself fell out for many years. We did reconnect, thankfully, because we did actually miss each other quite a lot during that time. We did reconnect in college, because we actually ended up in the same college course for a year, because he did a first year when I was in a third year, I think. I'm not sure anyway, but we did actually reconnect eventually, which was great, and we're better friends than even we were when we were in the band together and when we went to school. We've made a YouTube channel previously together called Hit the Snake, which he now completely operates himself at the moment. I know I jump in sometimes with some of the videos, but he's also does music like myself, and he releases original music under his name, Patrick Hendrick. So definitely worth checking out. Excellent songwriter, and just a great all-around guy, really. I love you, my friend. But it's quite funny, because we often talk at length about Tales of Monkey Island, and Patrick is a huge fan of this game, and I think he has kind of mentioned it's because he played it at a time when he was quite low in his life. Not to be giving too much away about his own private affairs, but yeah, he was kind of in a low point in his life, he said to me before, and Tales of Monkey Island kind of gave him a bit of solace and a bit of happiness during that time, that harder time in his life. And which is kind of the same for me, really, because, you know, Monkey Island has given me solace in my own life as well, in many different ways. So Monkey Island is a powerful thing, I think. It's a powerful thing for people. We are now at an hour. I am so sorry for dragging on, but I have to give this context. So we kind of reconnected, I think it was 2011 when we started to kind of talk again. And basically, my version of Tales of Monkey Island that I played was on the PlayStation 3. And I didn't buy it because it completely went over my head. I did actually play the Monkey Island 2 Special Edition on PlayStation 3 as well, and I remember buying that immediately when it came out in 2010, and the trophies say that I got them in 2010. So actually, for some reason, Tales of Monkey Island on the PlayStation 3 store just went over my head. I didn't see it. Or maybe, again, I'm always very much a kind of person that was like, oh, I'd like to play it on PC because it's a PC game. So I might have seen it and kind of went, no, I'll just wait until I get a PS3, or PC rather. So yeah, I basically ended up freely downloading Patrick's version that he had bought. He was kind enough to allow me to access his PlayStation account and download all of the chapters onto my PlayStation and play them, which was really nice of him. And that's how I played Tales of Monkey Island in 2012. All thanks to my best friend, Mr. Patrick Hendrick. So that's really it. That's my personal history. As I said, I amn't the biggest fan of this game. I do also, and I think it's worth showing, I do now own a limited edition copy of Tales of Monkey Island. I do own all of the big box versions of Monkey Island. I love owning them. That was not as expensive as it is now, but it was expensive, and I actually do own just a standard DVD case that I picked up sometime in a shop somewhere as well, and that comes with extras, you know, gallery of concept art, wallpapers, avatars, that kind of thing, you know, it's on a DVD. That's really it. That's my history and everything to do with Monkey Island. There's my notes. I'm going to close down my notes now. I don't need them anymore. And there's some music. I'm going to pause the music. I'm just going to shut this down. Right, so I'm going to play a bit of the game because this episode is an hour long. And so here we are. This is the GOG version. You can download this game still, I think. And I think you can buy it on Steam as well. And it has been re-released a couple of times. I think you can even play it on the PlayStation still through that new weird PlayStation thing that they have. I don't know what it's called, where you can kind of stream games online. But here we are anyway in the Tales of Monkey Island Chapter 1. So I have the subtitles on for those of you who want the subtitles. There is a hint frequency thing, and I've heard about this. I was listening to a podcast about this game, Bob Mackey, again, from Retronauts. Great podcast. Sorry, my nose is a bit blocked. But he was saying that the hint frequency is really annoying because Guybrush will just blurt out, this is what you're supposed to do. I don't want that at all. If I'm going to be stuck, I want to be stuck, you know. So the hint frequency is off, as you can see. And I'm going to be playing the game. There is no difficulty level in this game. It's only 2 games in the series have the difficulty level. You just hit new game and then off we go. So here we go, Tales of Monkey Island Chapter 1, ladies and gents. I think I'm going to play the opening section and maybe leave it at that today. I'm sorry that the first episode is short, but I think the history is important and I hope you enjoy it. But yeah, here we are. So let's enjoy this first cutscene together. I'm going to turn up the sound a little here so I can enjoy it. I can't remember if I was really excited to play it on the PlayStation when I first did. I think I probably was. But I just remember the first episode being too linear. I really do hope that my mind is somewhat changed on these early chapters, but here we are, and we'll hear...
Last, my victory is at hand!
There's Earl.
The legendary 13th monkey of Montevideo, whose sacrifice will eternally bind the oceans themselves to my infernal will. Impressed yet?
Half as much as I'll be when Guybrush guts your diseased carcass with his voodoo cutlass, you doddering sack of scum.
I wouldn't hold your breath, waiting for any last-minute heroics, my dear. The last I saw of your mighty pirate husband, he was being torn apart by a school of my ravenous piranha poodles.
All right, LeChuck, put down the monkey and back away from my wife.
Guybrush!
Ah, Threepwood, you've led me a merry chase, but soon the dread mysteries of these ancient simians will be mine, and the seas will run red with the blood of my enemies.
Yeah, well, you fight like a...
No time to waste, Guybrush. Finish enchanting that sword before LeChuck completes his spell.
I'm on it. One LeChuck defeating cursed cutlass of Kaflu coming up. Now, where did I leave those handy voodoo instructions?
They're pinned to your mast.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so here we are. We're finally in the game. So what do I think of Guybrush's look here? I don't know. I don't know what I think about it. To walk around, click and drag your mouse in the direction you want to go. Oh, that's weird. Oh, wow. That's very weird.
Have you no heart, LeChuck?
I don't know if I like that at all. I think you can use WASD as well. Yeah, I'll be using that. So what's kind of cool about the start of this game that I actually do like the very opening section of this game because it's kind of an interesting thing. It starts at the end of a Monkey Island game, if that makes sense. This is the final confrontation of a Monkey Island game, and I like that it starts there. And David Grossman has actually said that
Don't worry about me.
the game starts at the end of what would have been Monkey Island 5, essentially. And I think he probably regrets saying that because a lot of people probably took him too literally at the time. But so this technically is a Monkey Island 6 rather than a Monkey Island 5, but obviously we don't get to see what happens in that adventure until, you know, later. So here we are.
Sorry when my sweet patootie gets his hands on you, LeChuck.
Try selecting an object. Left click with the mouse. So like LeChuck.
Look at him, all smug and oozing with voodoo. We'll see who's oozing after I finish my awesome voodoo spell.
Cool. So that's how you look. You just click on.
I don't know what LeChuck's doing to that poor monkey, but it can't be good.
Yeah, I did like the start of this, and this was the
These ropes are starting to chafe.
Cease your infernal...
what did I see there? I saw there it is, the legendary Rock of Gelato. Gelato.
Rock of Gelato. It's hard to believe that LeChuck's latest master plan literally revolves around such a nondescript scab of dirt.
Brilliant. Yeah, so can I talk to him?
Yeah.
Okay. There's the wheel.
Thought I was an idiot for buying the auto navigation option. Who's the idiot now, huh?
I don't know, Guybrush. I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Like, my issue, I think, with the Guybrush look here,
I'll gut you for...
like, I think overall it's okay. I don't particularly like the goatee. I think it looks a bit silly. But Guybrush does look older in this game. But my issue is that Guybrush's costume almost always changed, and like it was cool that they used his Monkey Island 2 outfit because I know a lot of people really love that outfit, but it's nice when they change it up. I only just noticed he's wearing a ring as well. There's a monkey coffin.
Ah, the legendary monkey casket of Kauai. I'll never forget the horrible hula of Hades I had to do to get this thing.
No?
Is this thing sloshing? 4 words you don't want to hear when you pick up a coffin.
I also think it's quite funny that to display your inventory, move the cursor to the right edge of the screen and select
the
tab that appears.
The only thing that can stop LeChuck.
Yeah, so there we go. There's our inventory. I'm actually going to turn down the music. It seems a bit loud to me. I can't quite hear all of the out there sounds. So I can hear the voice a bit better. So everybody can hear the voice a bit better. Resume. Yeah. So there you go. That's the inventory as well. Oh, and that's how you take it out. Let's use it on the wheel.
Nah.
Nah. You can actually hear that Dominic sounds older as well in this game, which I think is kind of cool. How do I look at things within... Oh, I select the magnifying glass to look at things.
Fizzy Phil's breath mints. Give your mouth the gift of fizz.
Fizzy fretments. Fizzy breath mints sound really good, don't
You
they?
wouldn't believe all the incredible adventures I went through finding all the parts for this thing.
and we're never going to hear about them.
I wonder how you open this thing. Aha! A seltzer bottle full of root beer. I haven't seen one of these since before I had a beard. Bet this stuff will work wonders on my cutlass.
But yeah, I think for a large part, Guybrush looks okay. I'm just not sure about the goatee. I'm really not sure about
Cease your
it.
infernal struggling, or I'll...
Nope. Nothing in there but a decade's worth of fantastic pirate booty.
Okay.
Cease
Combine
your infernal
items.
struggling,
Place the
or I'll
item
gut
in
you
each
from
of the two
gob
large
to
circles on the
gizzard.
left, and then press. I remember that.
I wonder if there's anything useful down there. Nope. Nothing but a bunch of lazy crewmen. Can't believe I spent so much time recruiting those guys.
How weird. I like that, the rolling cannon.
Come to Guybrush, you spooky voodoo recipe, you. Well, I had to sail 6 of the 7 major seas to find the ingredients, but I finally finished the cutlass. Almost.
Enchanted root beer bottle.
Root beer to spray on it, and LeChuck's as good as toast. Icky disease toast.
I do think that, as per usual, though, the voice acting is of very high quality in this game. Like, Dominic sounds great there, in my opinion. So I need to make fizzy root beer and then spray the cutlass. I love that this is what went on during that hypothetical game.
Doing to that poor monkey, but it
How do you skip those? Can you skip those?
can't be good.
I don't know. I don't know, ladies and gents.
For the last time, LeChuck, I'm just not that into...
I'd fire the cannon, but Elaine jettisoned all my ammo after I accidentally sunk her mother's schooner.
Oh, bold Guybrush. I wonder what this is running at. I think it's running at 60 here, but my computer just isn't powerful enough to get 60 consistently, so you're getting 30, I think. Sorry about that. Okay, Elaine. I think I can talk to Elaine.
Elaine, my beautiful butter...
What?
I said, Elaine, my beautiful butter...
My beautiful butter?
I was gonna say buttercup, but you keep cutting me off.
Oh, Guybrush. Now stop the chuck or we're all dead.
Ah. Okay.
What's going on here?
LeChuck hijacked my ship and sailed to the Rock of Gelato to finish his terrifying voodoo ritual. It's a good thing we've got the Cutlass of Maflu on our side, or we'd be done for.
I like Elaine in this game, and particularly later on in the kind of last chapter. I think this is maybe one of the better like uses of Elaine in a game, and like one of the better kind of, what would you call it? Like, it really shows their relationship has developed in a cool way this game, I think. So I think that's a positive about the game.
I found the root beer.
We're all very impressed. Now spray the Cutlass with it.
Okay.
Are you okay?
I'm fine. Finish the recipe.
Do you need anything?
I said I'm fine. Just finish the recipe.
Want me to get anything from the hold? I brought some pot stickers.
No! Finish the recipe!
Why do you keep shouting?
Why do you keep shouting at me?
I'm not shouting! I'm projecting!
Are you okay?
I'm fine. Finish the recipe.
Brilliant. Okay. Yeah, Elaine, like Alexandra Boyd as Elaine is definitely better.
Cease your infernal
She's definitely better.
struggling, or I'll gut you from gob to gizzard.
So yeah, and this what would you call it? This like style of movement, and with the mouse pointer where you can move around with WASD, it was used for like almost all of the Telltale games. Now this game is decidedly more puzzle based than Walking Dead was. Like The Walking Dead was more story based. There's almost no puzzles really in the Walking Dead series, for especially the later ones. Oh yeah, I have to put him in here like so, like this, and plus. Nope. And he doesn't say anything about it either, does he? No, he doesn't. Okay. What's this? Close inventory. Okay.
Looks like I've only got a couple of steps left.
Okay.
What was a seltzer bottle doing in a monkey coffin anyway?
Who knows, Guybrush?
It's a seltzer bottle full of root beer. It looks kind of flat.
What if I use the root beer now on it? Will anything happen? No.
Alright, time to give this cutlass a root beer shower. What? Root beer? What kind of second-rate voodoo seltzer bottle has flat root beer?
Flat root beer. Root beer's already a weird tasting drink. Flat root beer, I would say, would be disgusting. Right, let's try this though. There we go. That's how you combine the items.
Whoa, Fizz City.
Fizz City. Let's look at it now.
I kind of guessed that the breath mints would make the root beer fizzy, but I'm a little freaked out by the glowing.
The glowing. What if I talk to Elaine now? Will she say anything? I get the feeling that the puzzle, like I remember the puzzles not being very.
Cease your
Elaine!
What?
I made fizzy root beer!
Spray the sword before it goes flat.
Okay. I can do that, Elaine. Alright. And here we are.
Prepare to meet your frosty carbonated maker, LeChuck.
Dar! Come and get me, you dirt-digging doily dipper!
Brilliant.
Stop showboating and spray the sword, Guybrush.
I'm not showboating, I'm...
How does he drop it?
And now we're going to die. Again.
Again.
Wonderful.
Okay, no problem. I just need to find a fresh supply of impossible-to-find voodoo root beer. I sure hope there's some on Elaine's ship, because mine's as dry as a bone. And not one of those wet bones. I'm talking a dry bone.
Alright. Sometimes after certain events,
They're
characters
starting to
use
chafe.
the same. Oh yeah.
Cease your infernal struggling, or I'll gut you from
Elaine!
What?
I don't know what to do.
Elaine, you've got inordinately strong thighs. See if you can swing me that rope.
It's not long enough. But I've got a better idea.
Ah. That is a good idea. Yeah. Guybrush looks so silly.
How'd you do that?
You don't spend several years at the side of Guybrush Threepwood, mighty pirate, without picking up a few tricks, darling.
Yeah, I like their relationship in this game.
Buddy, my collection of autographed sextants.
We'll buy you some more sextants later. Just stop LeChuck.
Ah, Threepwood. So good of you to join us. Saves me the trouble of having to sink your ship.
I'm gonna sink your own ship. To use an item from your inventory on objects in the world, tap the item in your inventory selected, then tap X to close your inventory, and tap the object you want to use it on. Let's have a talk to Elaine.
Elaine,
Guybrush,
now that we're reunited, what should we do?
first, you should look for a way to replace that root beer you dropped.
Alright.
Sorry it took so long to catch up with you, but I've been busy digging up arcane voodoo items. Did you miss me?
Buckets. Now put this pirate out of our misery.
Yeah, their relationship is more sweet in this, you know, like Guybrush was very much being treated like, you know, although like the Charity James thing in Escape, like she was quite sweet on Guybrush as well, but like not in the same way. Not in the same way. This just seems like they have a sweet kind of relationship, which I think is nice.
You wouldn't believe the adventures I've been having. There was a death hula, an ice-breathing accountant.
You can tell me all about it over dinner. Right after we stop the rampaging undead pirate over there.
So, what have you been up to while I was out adventuring?
Oh, the usual. Mayhem, swashbuckling, a troubling encounter with an enchanted aardvark.
An enchanted aardvark.
Captain Personality over there thinks he's gonna marry me.
Again? Talk about obsessed.
Well, it'd be flattering if I wasn't so married and he wasn't so dead.
What's LeChuck doing with all these monkeys anyway?
I think it's some sort of blood sacrifice in exchange for the secret language of plankton. Or maybe he just really hates monkeys. It's all been a little vague.
That's strange. LeChuck's soul-chilling schemes are usually so well planned.
Alright. Oh, look at all the monkeys down there in the hatch.
Nothing can stop me.
Hang in there, guys. We'll get you out as soon as I put an end to LeChuck.
Quarters door?
I'll sleep when I'm dead. Or later tonight.
Okay. Gunpowder?
I wondered where all my gunpowder went after the mother-in-law incident.
Yeah, I like that there's like stuff that happened that we don't see, and your mind gets to kind of go off and think about it.
Stop me now.
It's Elaine's barrel of light grog. It's like real grog, only without the taste, calories, or debilitating blackouts.
Light grog.
Nothing can
Chuck the
stop me
plant.
now.
Those roots could really use a trim.
Have, like, Chuck the plant, I don't think, ever made it into a game?
Nothing can stop me now.
Can I use the cutlass on Elaine? No, just kill her.
Brace yourself. I'm gonna cut you free.
Cut through these ropes with that sword? Are you crazy?
Crazy in love, maybe.
You just worry about LeChuck, sweetheart. I'll be okay.
Alright. Alright, she doesn't want to be saved right now. Doesn't want to be saved. For a breath mint?
Care for a breath mint?
Oral hygiene can wait, love.
What about the monkeys down there? I think I can go up to LeChuck, but I think LeChuck, like...
LeChuck,
What?
Ah, here he is.
what's with all the monkeys? Are you trying to learn the secret of Monkey Island again?
Nay. Now I'd be after much darker secrets. Secrets buried deep within the entrails of the monkeys of Montevideo.
Montevideo.
Monkey entrails, of course. How silly of me. What kind of secrets do these monkeys hold?
Dark secrets. Powerful secrets. Secrets that will make me a demon pirate king.
You know, it's nice to see that your repeated deaths and dismemberments haven't dampened your enthusiasm. Would you mind releasing my wife? She gets a little cranky when she's tied up for more than an hour or so.
Your wife? Nay, Elaine is destined to be my bride.
Don't know about that, no.
Destiny schmestiny. Elaine's my wife, and she's not marrying you.
You'd be starting to get on me nerves, Geekwood. Elaine.
Oh, for pity's sake, just run him through with the cut. We can all go home.
As you wish, my love.
I'm pretty sure she was talking to me. Listen, see this ring? It means that Elaine and I are married, hitched, cohabitating, eternally betrothed, till death do us part. Got it?
Till death do you part, eh? We'll have to do something about that.
Oh? Yeah, that's what happens. Every time you walk up, no, that'll happen.
Tasty.
So, like, if I just walk up to try to stop.
Hey, LeChuck.
Die.
Yeah. I think that's kind of cool that they have that little loop thing going on. I presume I can talk to LeChuck again.
LeChuck.
What?
Look like something the cat dragged in and spat up on the floor, LeChuck.
Ha! My outer shell is meaningless, you fool. Within my decaying flesh courses more voodoo power than your pitiful mind can possibly imagine.
Interesting.
Didn't you used to be a ghost?
And then a
Or
demon? Yeah.
Or maybe it was a zombie.
The evil of LeChuck is always evolving in new and terrifying ways. Sheep good.
Earl Bone, like, I think he's doing a really good job in this game. So far, anyway. It sounds great.
If evil is always evolving, why can't it evolve into something less but ugly?
Oh, he didn't like that. What if I give LeChuck a breath mint?
Nothing can stop me now.
Hey, LeChuck.
Who dares interrupt my arcane reverie?
Reverie.
Breath mint?
What?
Seriously, the funk that's coming out of your mouth will peel the blubber off a manatee.
Die.
There's a lot to do with manatees in this game. There's a whole manatee section, isn't there? Can I give him anything else? Can I use the sword on LeChuck?
Ungar!
Oh. Whoopsie. Right. Obviously, what I'm supposed to do here, as far as I know, can I put the monkey back in the coffin?
I'm not putting that poor monkey in a coffin until he's well and truly dead. Which, from the looks of things, ought to be in about 10 minutes.
Oh.
I don't know what LeChuck's doing to that poor monkey, but it can't be good.
White monkey. Can I give the monkeys down their breath mints or coffins?
That's unnecessary. Those monkeys have surprisingly good breath.
Ah. Okay. What about a coffin? For all those poor monkeys.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. So I believe, if I'm correct, Guybrush is going to use the light grog as a substitute.
Fizzy low-cal grog. I bet I can make a fortune selling this to, well, no one.
And then I think I need to get a root for root beer off Chuck the plant.
Let's see if we can cut back some of those unruly roots.
Yep.
There, much neater.
I don't think Chuck the plant has made it into any other Monkey Island games, so that's kind of interesting. Chuck the plant, for those of you who don't know, is kind of like a in-joke in Lucas film games, which started, I believe, in Maniac Mansion. Might be incorrect on that, but I think Maniac Mansion was the first with Chuck the plant.
Now that's some fizzy root grog. I bet it still tastes like monkey snot, though. It's a glowing fizzy barrel of root grog.
Yeah, and I think it's the grog thing now that kind of makes this go a bit awry.
Okay, you barrel of disgusting low-cal goo. Make yourself useful.
Yeah, I like the intro of this game. Oh, it's seeping onto the ship.
Ooh,
That's
yeah.
not good.
Look out, LeChuck. Here comes Guybrush Threepwood's glowing sword of hot monkey vengeance.
That sounds dirty.
Once I get rid of LeChuck, I better mop that stuff up before it eats through the deck.
Oh, it's next to the gunpowder. That's not good.
Over the years, I've learned the best time to use a weapon is when it's pulsing with spooky voodoo energy.
I don't think you're wrong, Guybrush. I don't think you're wrong. Okay. What if I show it to Elaine now?
Brace yourself. I'm gonna cut you free.
Cut through these ropes with
Nah,
that
right, no.
sword.
She doesn't want that. Oh, so space is pause.
Are you
That's kind of cool.
crazy?
That's good to know.
Crazy in love.
Crazy in love, baby.
You just worry about LeChuck, sweetheart. I'll
Oh.
be okay.
Okay. Okay, let's do it. Let's finish it.
Yes!
Yeah, I like the start to this game. I think it's a good opening.
LeChuck!
Do you mind? I be in the middle of an unholy ceremony here.
Unholy this!
Oh. Oh my.
Only this?
Yeah, I know, but he didn't give me much to work with. Hey!
Ha! You can't defeat me that easily, sheep good. Wait, what's happening?
Is that how the cutlass is supposed to work?
I don't know. It's so bright. What the heck?
Woof.
And here he is.
I'm human.
That's debatable.
Guybrush, quick! Finish him off!
What? Oh, right. This is for the monkeys, LeChuck.
What are you doing? Finish him!
It's not me. It's my hand. It won't. Uh-oh.
Whoopsies.
Elaine!
Guybrush?
So yeah, a whole load of things just happened there. Whoa. So there we are. That's the intro of the game. So LeChuck has been turned back into a human? Question mark? And I really do like on this game the evil hand that Guybrush gets. That there we go. Written and directed by Mike Stemley. Oh, that's the continuity has been ruined there. His evil hand wasn't in that shot. But yeah, I really like the evil hand. A lot of funny things happen because of that evil hand. You can hear the MIDI version of the music there. Definitely not as epic as previous soundtracks. There's Randy Tudor again. Yeah, I like the hand. I think the hand is a cool idea. LeChuck being human, I don't really want to comment too much on it. There's something I want to say about it, but I'm not going to say anything about it because of reasons. I can only get into those reasons at a later date. So that's for me to know and for you to find out, ladies and gents, why I'm not really commenting on the LeChuck human thing.
Elaine?
If you do want to talk about it, actually,
Hearty.
ask me down in the comments, and I'll talk about it in the comments.
Don't worry, we'll have you up and sucking back a grog in... No,
Yeah, I like that stuff.
Don't! My beautiful pirate, don't! I'll get you for this, you craven billed rat!
My beautiful pirate nose.
I don't know what got into me.
I think this is where the demo ends
Oh, this can't be good.
of this original demo
You
that I
really should have that looked at, kid.
Huh?
The name's Nipperkin. Davy Nipperkin, senior reporter, Keel Hauler Gazette. Welcome to Flotsam Island. Mind if I ask you a few questions?
Actually,
Great. What's your name, where'd you come from, and how'd you get here?
Oh god. My pirate life is none of your darn business, newsy. My name is not important. How are we gonna start? And the hand is still going.
I'm Guybrush Threepwood, mighty pirate.
Pirate, eh? Well, I believe it when I see it, kid. Still, it'd be nice to have a real genuine pirate buckling his swash around Flotsam Island again. Why, I haven't had an honest-to-goodness pirate story to write about in over 6 months. Yes, sirree, Bob. Nothing like the promise of a good pirate story to get the old journalistic juices flowing again, says I.
Whoa.
Say, just listen to me prattling on while you stand there all wet and confused and whatnot. So, what's your story, Creepwood?
There's so many people getting his name wrong in like the first 10 minutes of the game.
This island looks, lovely, but where can I find a ship? I really need to get back to the Rock of Gelato and find my wife.
Well, there's only one ship here on Flotsam Island, but it won't do you any good.
Why not?
It's the winds, Threepwand, the winds.
Treebwand.
Here on Flotsam Island, the winds are always blowing inward 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's a freak of nature, a fluke, a curse. Whatever you want to call it, the result is the same. Once you've landed on Flotsam Island, you're trapped.
Right, there is a very
Seriously
pasty
telling me
white
there's
man.
no way off this island?
Well, not by ship, anyway. The only person who I think might know a way off the island is Deep Gut.
Deep Gut. I don't remember this at all. Who the hell is Deep Gut? What?
Deep gut? What's a deep gut?
Deep Gut's my secret source for off-island news stories, and it's a good thing, too.
Alright.
Without the Gut's uncanny inter-island scoops, the Keel Hauler Gazette would never be able to compete with those
I understand.
snooty prima donnas over at the Flotsam Times.
Off-island news? Hey, then he might know something about Elaine. Where can I find this deep gut?
Deep
Hold on a
Gut.
second, pirate boy. Davy J. Nipperkin doesn't go handing over his secret sources to every Tom, Dick, and Guybrush that washes ashore.
But I can pay you with treasure from my ship,
I love that.
which is probably at the bottom of the ocean by now.
Look, kid, you seem like a nice enough pirate, so I'll make you a deal.
Deep Gut is obviously must be a reference to I think it's Deep Throat, as dirty as that sounds, which was is it in real life or is it a film? Like all I know it from really is Metal Gear Solid, that has a reference to some maybe real life whistleblower or something like that. But yeah, there you go, Deep Gut. He's a whistleblower. I won't have to dress up like a sheep, will I? I love making deals with complete strangers.
Deal?
Yeah, off-island news is nice and all, but the fair citizens of Flotsam are getting tired of stories about faraway lands they'll never see again. Not to mention that I hate being beholden to this Deep Gut person.
So?
So I need some nice, meaty local pirate
Alright,
news.
okay, so that's my
I
first
love
mission.
making pirate news.
That's the spirit, kid. You can translate that moxie into news-making.
You moxie.
I'll hand you Deep Gut on a silver platter.
Alright.
It has to be a snap. A snap. A snap. Ow!
Yeah. Like, I like that opening section. I just hope the game can keep that same feeling for the rest of it. I just remember this place being so linear. Saving game. Okay, game is saved. Ladies and gents, I am gonna just leave it there because this episode's gonna be way too long and I don't want it to be too long. I will do, you know, a longer episode for the next one. I'm gonna just double save it. Why not? Oh, look, it gives a little kind of backtrack of what happened. Okay, cool. But thank you very much for joining me along. I know I kind of went on with the history, but again, I think it's important. I think it's important to have that history, ladies and gents. So, I would like to thank you all for watching. My name is Dangerous Lee. I salute you all. We will be back to Tales of Monkey Island in the next episode, and just another step closer to playing Return. So yeah, I salute you all and thank you. Goodbye.